please, don't try anything that you're about to see us do at home.
Ever.
On this episode of MythBusters,
That was a nice line.
it's the moment we've all been waiting for.
The great questions of the internet.
As the massive controversy of playing on a treadmill finally gets put to the test.
I'm good to go. Over.
Can an airplane really take off on a giant conveyor belt?
Oh, that was beautiful!
Then Tori, Grant, and Carrie bug out with creepy crawlies.
Oh, there's so many in there. Ugh.
With the classic myth, can cockroaches survive the radiation from a nuclear bomb?
Start her up.
Finally, the teen blow an internet prank out of all proportion
Oh my God! Grant, get over here! Look at this!
when they find out if foam can really soil a sedan.
This is more than a prank. This is evil.
Who are the MythBusters?
It's time to blow some stuff up.
Adam Savage
This is killing me.
and Jamie Heineman.
That was fun.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
This is the kind of thing I do on the weekend.
Joining them, Carrie Byron,
Come over here. You smell that?
Grant Imahara,
He's alive!
and Tori Belleci.
This is starting to feel like a bad idea.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. And first up, a myth that's caused a fan-side frenzy.
I gotta tell you, this next myth, man, is super controversial. There's literally thousands of pages of the most vitriolic discussions on both the World Wide Web and the Discovery fan site about this next myth.
So that probably means that we're doing plane on a conveyor belt.
Exactly right. Let me spell it out for you. Normally, a plane sits on a runway, spins up its engines, moves forward, gets enough air over the wings, and takes off. But in this case, the plane is sitting not on a runway, but a huge conveyor belt that is matching the plane's forward speed in reverse. The grand question is, can the plane take off? The myth is that it can't.
Well, I know what I think.
Keep it to yourself because we're gonna test it out.
It's a complex myth that's driven the fan side wild, and it's definitely one to get you thinking. If an airplane is on a conveyor belt, and both are going the plane's takeoff speed, but in opposite directions, what will happen? Some say the plane will take off, others say the plane will be held in place. But what do you think?
How are we going to test this?
I figure the best thing is, as always, to start small. Let's go get the simplest conveyor belt we have access to.
That'd be my treadmill.
Exactly. Put a model plane on it and see what happens when we put those two things together. I also think I know the exact model plane I want to use. Grant has a ton of experience flying it and might be able to teach us.
Okay.
Perfect.
So to curtail this controversy, they need a conveyor belt and an airplane. And Grant's been drafted in to help Adam and Jamie get their wings.
Hey.
Can you teach me how to fly this to do airplane on conveyor belt?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go.
Okay, guys, so this is a park flyer. It's a very slow directional controls are on the right. It's ratcheted so you can keep a position.
Elevators,
You
okay.
trim it out so that you're kind of tail drag. That makes it perfect for a beginning flyer.
Grant makes it all sound so easy. But already, Jamie has some grave concerns.
I don't know if I can handle this, actually. We're using this particular item the way that it was intended.
And leaving Jamie stunned, Adam's cleared for takeoff.
Good, good. My prediction for Adam is, he's got an exuberant personality. He is likely to crash as fast as possible. Jamie, on the other hand, has a very controlled personality. He is likely to fly a very controlled pattern.
That was a nice line.
In fact, the man with the flyboy mustache proves to be something like the Red Baron. With acrobatics like that, he's qualified as chief aviator on the test. But will it be enough to quell the quarreling caused by this myth?
Well, gentlemen, looks like you've got things under control here.
Reasonably. Thanks for your help, man.
All right.
Thanks, Grant.
Take care. Good luck.
Thanks. I think we're going to need it.
Now, if you've never heard of this next myth, you must live in a nuclear bunker.
The next myth is a super creepy crawly one, and I'm not really happy about it. It's about cockroaches.
Ugh. I hate cockroaches. All right, so what's the myth?
The myth is a classic that everyone's heard of, that cockroaches will be the only things to survive a nuclear blast.
Well, that sounds cool, but how are we going to test this without killing ourselves?
Here's food for thought. Like it or not, cockroaches are everywhere. And so far, they've survived 300 million years on this planet. But can they really survive a nuclear explosion?
Specifically, this myth is about the radiation that the cockroaches would get from the nuclear blast and not the blast itself, because, face it, that's going to be so hot it's going to fry anything anyway.
All right, so how are we going to test this? Get some cockroaches and a nuclear bomb?
Yeah, the roaches are going to be the easy thing. The radiation might be a little harder.
Well, I think for completeness, we should try a few other types of insects, just to make sure that cockroaches are the only thing that'll survive.
Why don't we do fruit flies? Because that's a classic insect for these types of experiments. We'll also do flower beetles because they're very tough.
So it's an all-star insect lineup, including flower beetles and fruit flies. But first up, the guys get face to antenna with the principal parasite for this parable.
Okay, guys. Here is a box I am sure the delivery guy is very excited to not open up in his truck. These are cockroaches.
Say Guten Tag to the German cockroach. Cutie, cutie, cutie. They cause allergic reactions in people.
Oh, there's so many in there. Ugh.
Another runner.
And have even been known to feed on human nighttime dribble.
Dude, that is so dirty.
But will the deadly radiation described in the myth get the better of them?
Oh, this guy's like a sprinter.
So with most of the roaches raring to go, what's next for this myth?
I'm calling insects to come to me so that I can put them in these boxes and irradiate them. I know that's kind of cruel. They don't really know what's going to hit them, but, you know, science is fun, but it's not always nice.
It seems Nice Guy Tory is having a conscience crisis.
It's exciting.
Because with insect death a possibility, this myth is pretty unusual. From savage sharks and angry arachnids to gnarling guard dogs.
Oh, run, run, run!
Where animals are involved, it's normally the MythBusters that come off second best. But not this time. These cockroaches may be on death row, but because they were bred for use in a science lab, their days were always numbered. But if the myth is true, then no harm will come to them.
In the cockroach survival experiment, I need to make some sort of compartment that's going to hold 50 cockroaches. I need them all to get equal amount of radiations, making a little cockroach motel of death, or as I'd like to call it, the Holiday End.
And once the insect containment boxes are conjured up, the guys just need to get hold of some nuclear radiation. And that should be easy. Later, Adam and Jamie put plane on a conveyor belt to the ultimate test.
Go, Jamie, go!
But next, it's survival of the yuckiest as the team makes roaches and radiation. It's the road to nowhere. The lowly conveyor belt is mankind's labor-saving tool, manufacturing aid, and even automated dog walker. But it's also part of an incredibly controversial conundrum. If a conveyor belt was going the takeoff speed of an airplane in one direction, can it stop that airplane from taking off in the other direction? Or would the plane simply take to the skies? So far, Adam and Jamie have graduated from flight school. All they need now is a conveyor belt. And this not-so-run-of-the-mill human treadmill should be enough to get this myth up and, running.
We know what speed the plane needs to take off, so we've set the treadmill to go that speed. We're going to put the plane on it, see whether it takes off.
And with the airplane's takeoff speed being 11.3 miles per hour, both the plane and the belt are set to that magic number.
I've read literally thousands of pages of vitriolic commentary and argument on the web about airplanes on a conveyor belt, but nowhere did I find anyone who'd put an airplane on a conveyor belt. That's just what we're about to do in Scale here. And hopefully we're about to answer some really important questions.
It sounds simple, but as Adam soon finds out, it's not all plain sailing.
I'm sensing a problem.
Those wheels are so flimsy.
They are so flimsy and they're just moving around.
Adam's engineered a flight plan to steer the plane, and carefully making sure he's not pushing it forward, it's all systems go.
It's an airplane on a conveyor belt, dude. It's one of the great questions of the internet.
Ain't that the truth? But it's not answered yet, Adam.
I'll set it to fat burn.
Fat burn, nice.
So with the treadmill set to fat burn in one direction, Jamie's plane burns rubber in the other direction.
Go ahead and ramp it up.
Luckily, they get their act together. But is that a result?
And we thought it was going to do what?
It went right off the end of the conveyor belt.
No.
Yes.
Yes. With the conveyor belt going 11.3 miles per hour in reverse, Jamie accelerated the plane up to match that speed. And get this, the plane moved forwards. However, it didn't have a chance to get airborne because the treadmill is too short. The guys are investigating an atomic bomb of a myth. Reputed to survive the deadly radiation from a nuclear explosion, apparently cockroaches will inherit the Earth. But will they be alone?
I've been combing the black market, I've been searching the internet, and finding a nuclear bomb is not as easy as you might think.
Fortunately, our researchers have managed to find a lab that's willing to work with us.
Yeah, apparently they have a cobalt-60 radiation source that they're willing to let us test with.
Awesome! I can't believe we're actually gonna do this myth.
Well, believe it, Carrie, because it's all going to go down at the Pacific Northwest Laboratory. Inside the imposing structure, Tori meets radiation expert Michelle Johnson.
All right, so Michelle, this is where we're going to be irradiating the insects, right?
Right. We have a cobalt-60 source in here, and it produces a radiation level of about 55,000 R per hour, which is enough to kill you in about 10 minutes. Enough to kill you in about 10 minutes. Kill you in about 10 minutes.
As Tori picks his jaw up off the floor, let's get this straight. They're not using a nuclear bomb to irradiate the insects, but a highly dangerous radioactive metal called cobalt-60. They'll use this metal to irradiate their insects at 3 different exposure settings called rads. Test 1 will be 1,000 rads. Test 2, 10,000. And test 3, 100,000. And alarmingly, even the lowest dose is really bad news for a human. And with the bugs all set, it's go time for the 1,000 rad test.
What happens is the radiation source will come up to the porthole here, and then we'll have a beam of radiation that will be exposing our insects.
With the first bugs in place, a push of a button reveals the alarmingly lethal radiation source.
Right now, we're radiating our cockroaches, our fruit flies, and our flower beetles at 1,000 rad. Now that is the lethal dose for humans, right on the other side of that wall. And to make it even scarier, we're told we can't go past this line. Safe, unsafe. Safe, unsafe.
It's undoubtedly one of the most dangerous experiments in the history of MythBusters. For human beings, a mere line on the floor separates life and death. But after 3 minutes in the firing line, will the insects be incinerated?
Fruit flies are going to be fruit fries.
Later, the MythBusters confront the controversy of playing on a treadmill full scale.
Ah, that was beautiful!
But first, if roaches get nuked, will they rule the roost?
Let's zap them.
The MythBusters are no strangers to controversy. They campaigned for free energy.
It's breaking free of the bonds of the energy conglomerates!
And took on the man in the Great Gas Conspiracy.
Okay, that's enough of that test.
But now, they're tackling the most debated myth in MythBusters history.
The great questions of the internet.
If an airplane was on a conveyor belt and both were going the same speed but in opposite directions, would the plane be held in place or would it take off? So far, it's been a turbulent ride. The plane's gone forward on the conveyor belt, but it hasn't taken off. And that means the boys need a new plan.
We need a longer treadmill, and I don't see how we can modify this to be long enough.
Well, how about a sheet of butcher paper, just a long roll of it, and just yank it?
That's great. That's terrific. All we need for that test is to figure out what the shortest distance this can become airborne in.
All right, this is airplane takeoff test 1. Jamie, whenever you're ready. Dude, that took off in like 20 feet.
With the takeoff distance sorted, what's next?
I'm going to drag 20 feet of this butcher paper behind my device here with the plane facing in reverse, like this. I'm going to get up to about 12 miles an hour over the takeoff speed. Jamie's going to kick this plane into gear, and if it can take off before it leaves the paper, then I think this myth is not looking very good. Long conveyor belt test in 3, 2, 1.
Up, stop. Nope.
Oh, it just goes to show what looks good on paper doesn't always work in practice.
No. The plane just went off before I had even controlled it.
Well, he's not a happy camper. But maybe a little runway maintenance will help his piloting skills and settle this global dispute once and for all.
Okay, I'm ready to start. You all ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go.
After so many false starts and so much controversy...
Is that a flying plane?
That is a flying plane, and it was on the paper when it took off.
Excellent.
Confounding and confusing, the plane didn't stay where it was. It moved forward and took off before the end of the conveyor belt.
Here's the thing. If the myth is that a plane on a conveyor belt can't take off, we just had a plane on a conveyor belt and it took off.
And what's more, they have a theory as to why.
All right, I'm trying to use this car to demonstrate where I think people get mixed up. The forward speed of the car is exactly the same as the backward speed of the conveyor belt, thus the car remains stationary, and this is why people think that the plane's not taking off, because there it is, it's stationary, it's not moving.
Yeah, but cars and airplanes move by different means. The car is sending power to its wheels. That's what makes it move forward or backward or keep up with the conveyor belt. Airplanes have free spinning wheels, and they move because there's a propeller pushing air, which makes the airplane go forward.
Exactly. So if I remove power to the wheels of this car, thus turning it into a plane, and then my hand pushing will represent the force of the propeller pushing against the air, and I feel almost no resistance on the conveyor belt, so the plane moves forward.
And it takes off.
Exactly.
So let's get this straight. A car gets its thrust through its wheels, creating forward motion using the ground it's on. But a plane gets its thrust through its engines, which are independent of its wheels, and so is not affected by the ground, or in this case, the conveyor belt. When engines are on, forward motion will happen. That's the theory. But to cement their place in history, the MythBusters are going full scale with a manned aircraft and the mother of all conveyor belts. The question is, will they get airborne?
Go!
Back at Roach HQ, the 1,000 rad radiation test is over.
Fruit flies are still moving. Flower beetles still moving. Cockroaches still moving.
Remarkably, all the bugs seem to be alive. Well, at least for now. Because radiation works on a cellular level, exposure may not take effect immediately. So each set of bugs is put into containers, which will then be monitored over a 30-day period.
We just did our first test at 1,000 rad. The bugs look all right, so we're moving on to the second test, which is 10,000 rad.
So in test 2, the dial gets cranked up by a factor of 10. It's affecting the cameras, but luckily it isn't affecting Grant.
I have to admit that it is a little freaky to go into the room, but I'm starting to understand that just because we subject the bugs to radiation doesn't make them radioactive materials.
They're still moving.
That's it.
Nice.
Just like last time, they're all still alive, even after 10,000 rads. But only time will tell how long these bugs will last.
Now we're going to step it up. We're going to 100,000 rad. That is 100 times the lethal dose for a human. That is melting faces at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark scary.
Let's zap them.
And while the last set of bugs are being zapped, Raiders of the Lost Ark style, Grant's found out the background to this myth.
Hey, do you know what I found out about the science of radiation?
No, what?
Well, we know that radioactivity was discovered by Henri Becquerel in the late 1880s, but it wasn't until more recently that science has found out that it's the sensitive tissues, like those in our bone marrow or our intestinal tract, that make us more susceptible to poisoning by radiation than other species. The theory is that the more simple body structures of the insects should make them less susceptible to radiation than us.
Well, that's the theory. But after the 100,000 rad test, the news ain't good for the bugs.
Oh my gosh. From the looks of it, there might be like 10% still alive. That's frightening.
Nearly all of Test 3's cockroaches have died. But from the looks of the other bug boxes, this test ain't over yet.
So we've got all of our bugs here that have been exposed to the various levels of radiation, 1,000, 10,000, and 100,000 rad. Now we've got a fourth group, and that is the control set. The only difference is that they haven't been exposed to any radiation. We'll be able to use that to compare to the bugs that have been irradiated and see how they do.
So it's back to the shop. But the question is, will the bugs survive, or will they drop like flies? It's the sum of all fears. But would cockroaches survive the radiation of a nuclear explosion and inherit the Earth? In this classic modern myth, Carrie, Tori, and Grant have blasted 3 species of insect with 3 increasing levels of radiation. Will the cockroach be the ultimate survivor?
Hopefully they haven't mutated into some crazy monsters.
Back at the shop, what's the bug bulletin?
Okay, so here's the plan. We have 12 boxes of insects, 4 of cockroaches, 4 of flower beetles, and 4 of fruit flies. We'll be monitoring them over the next 30 days, counting how many die.
The job of insect coroner may sound grim, but for the MythBusters, it's important to keep upbeat.
We got a breach.
And what's more, they're making sure the bugs on death row are being well looked after.
They'll be given all the food and water they need, and we'll check in on the 15-day and 30-day increments. And we'll see if the cockroach is, in fact, the ultimate survivor.
So with 2 weeks to wait until the next dead count, the team needs something else to do. Coming up, will the MythBusters feel the wind beneath their wings?
Holy crap.
But first, the team scrutinize a soapy internet story.
Oh my God! Brad, get over here! Look at this!
And this is perfect. A foamy fable straight from the fan site.
1, 2, 3.
What the hell are we doing this for?
Look, there is actually a myth associated with it. If you take a can of shaving cream and you freeze it, if you take off the outside and put it in someone's car, it'll expand to fill the car.
Shaving cream is a practical joke staple for any frat boy funster or perky prankster. But as the internet rumor suggests, could 1 can of frozen shaving cream really inflate to fill a car?
The first step in this myth is to freeze the can of shaving cream. I'll leave it in there for a few hours, and while that's freezing, I'm gonna go get cleaned up.
All right, I have my shaving cream. It's frozen solid. Now all I need to do is cut off the can. Hopefully it won't explode in my face. What I should be left with is a cylinder of frozen shaving cream, and I'll stick that into the car, and hopefully as it starts to thaw, it'll expand and fill up the whole car. Quick, close the door.
This caper promises a car bursting with bubbles. But Tori's scoring this myth low on the prankometer. Lower even than the infamous biscuit bullet.